You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 378, Work Review Extremes Part 3, the solution of balanced leadership. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate productivity to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Are you caught in a constant struggle between too involved in your team's work or not involved enough? Do you find yourself bouncing between extremes of micromanaging and laissez-faire leadership, never quite landing on the elusive balance? In today's episode, the final installment of my Work Review Extreme series, you'll discover how to find that sweet spot of balanced leadership. I'll share a practical matrix for determining the right level of oversight for any situation, plus specific techniques that maintain quality while empowering your team. Whether you naturally lean towards controlling every detail or stepping back entirely, you'll learn to flex your approach based on what each situation truly requires. The goal of this 3-part series is to help you escape the work review extremes and find that sweet spot of balanced leadership. To make that practical and immediately applicable, I created a free resource, the Balanced Leadership Work Review Guide. If you have not already got your hands on it, be sure to hit pause and go grab that right now. Inside, you'll find a full matrix, printable power sheet, and companion walkthrough to help you map each team member and the type of work or task, so you always know how much oversight is appropriate. You can download it now at amberdelagarza.com/work review. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/work review. And now, let's get to the straight talk. Welcome back to my Work Review Extreme series. Over the past 2 episodes, we've explored the opposite ends of the leadership spectrum when it comes to reviewing your team's work. In part 1, we discussed overbearing leadership, that tendency to hover, micromanage, and control every detail of your team's work. We saw how this approach creates bottlenecks, stifles innovation, and ultimately limits your business growth. In part 2, we examined the laissez-faire leadership, the completely hands-off approach where you provide little to no guidance or feedback. We discovered how this seemingly empowering style actually leads to misaligned expectations, inconsistent quality, and frustrated team members who feel, well, unsupported. Today is my final episode in this series, where we're going to be bringing it all together by exploring the powerful sweet spot, balanced leadership. I know many of you have reached out after the previous episode sharing your own experiences with these extremes. Today's episode is the solution you've been waiting for. And I'm particularly excited about today's episode because this balanced approach is where the magic happens. It's where you'll find that sweet spot of maintaining quality without stifling creativity, which empowers your team while still ensuring excellent outcomes. The truth is, most of us naturally lean towards one extreme or the other. Some of us are natural controllers who find it really hard to let go, while others prefer to be hands-off and avoid any hint of micromanaging. Sound familiar? Which extreme are you? But the most effective leaders learn to flex between these approaches based on the specific situation, applying the right level of oversight at the right time. By the end of today's episode, you'll have a practical framework to help you determine exactly how much oversight is appropriate in different situations, plus specific strategies to build a culture where quality thrives without your constant involvement. You'll discover how to transform work review from a potential source of tension into a powerful tool for both business growth and team development. What is the sweet spot in leadership work review? Balanced leadership during work review is precisely what it sounds like. The sweet spot, positioned between overbearing and laissez-faire leadership that we've explored over the past 2 episodes. It's about providing the right level of guidance and autonomy based on the specific situation, not applying a one-size-fits-all approach to every team member and every task. Have you noticed how different team members respond to different approaches? The balanced approach recognizes that different work scenarios and different team members require varying levels of oversight. Signs you're practicing balanced leadership in your work review. You establish clear expectations and standards at the beginning of projects, ensuring everyone understands what success looks like. You schedule appropriate check-in points throughout the process based on the project's complexity and the team member's experience. Not too frequent to create bottlenecks, not too sparse to miss correction opportunities. Your feedback is specific, actionable, and focused on the outcomes rather than methods. You adapt your review approach based on individual team members' experience level, work history, and learning style. You are clear between must-haves and preferences in your feedback, clearly indicating which changes are essential versus which are stylistic choices. You invite dialogue and perspective from your team during review sessions rather than just issuing directives. You balance praise with constructive criticism, recognizing what's working well alongside areas for improvement. You teach the why behind your feedback, helping team members develop their own filter rather than just following instructions. You feel neither anxious about letting go nor guilty about providing direction. You're confident your level of involvement is appropriate to the situation. And lastly, you gradually reduce oversight as team members demonstrate increased competence and understanding. The foundation of balanced work review is a mindset that values both quality and team development equally. The mindset recognizes that your role as a leader is not just to ensure excellent deliverables today, but to build a team member that can consistently produce excellent deliverables tomorrow, even when you're not directly involved. This perspective shift is crucial. Instead of seeing work review as a simple quality control, balanced leadership views it as a teaching opportunity and an investment in their team's growth. They recognize that the time spent explaining the reasoning behind changes today will reduce the need for extensive review tomorrow. And perhaps most importantly, balanced leadership is situational. It recognizes that appropriate level of oversight varies based on the team member's experience and demonstrated competence with this specific task, the complexity and risk level of the particular project or deliverable, the consequences of potential errors or quality issues, and lastly, the learning opportunity presented by the situation. I really want to highlight those just one more time. Oversight varies on the team member's experience and demonstrated competence with this or that specific task, the complexity and risk level of a particular project or deliverable, the consequences of potential errors or quality issues, and lastly, the learning opportunity presented by the situation. Rather than applying uniform oversight across all situations, balanced leaders calibrate their approach, providing guidance for new team members or high-stake deliverables, while stepping back further when working with experienced team members on familiar tasks. A hallmark of balanced leadership is communication that empowers rather than either controlling or abandoning. Balanced leaders tend to ask thoughtful questions instead of just giving answers or saying nothing. They provide context that helps team members understand the big picture. They offer feedback that focuses on outcomes rather than just prescribing specific methods. They share the reasoning behind their decisions rather than just announcing them. And they express clear preferences while still being open to alternative approaches. The balanced work review process typically includes clear, upfront expectations that establish standards and desired outcomes. 2, strategically paced checkpoints determined by risk level and complexity. 3, appropriate real-time feedback that catches issues early without hovering. 4, thoughtful final reviews that validate quality while respecting the team member's contribution. And 5, forward-looking debriefs that capture lessons for future improvement. This balanced approach ensures quality while simultaneously developing the team member's skills and judgment, creating both short-term success and long-term capability. By becoming a balanced leader, you are most certainly looking at the long-term return, not just the immediate ROI, but really seeing this as an investment in the ROI over the long haul. So what happens when we actually implement this balanced leadership approach? Are there tangible benefits that make it worth the effort? Let's explore the powerful impact balanced leadership can have on your business, your team, and yes, even your own satisfaction as a leader. How does balanced leadership work review transform your business? In the first 2 episodes of this series, we explored the substantial costs of both overbearing and laissez-faire leadership approaches when reviewing your team's work. Now, let's look at the upside, the powerful benefits that occur when you find that sweet spot of balanced leadership. Let's first dive into how does this benefit your business? Improved work quality. Balanced work review ensures quality without stifling innovation. Team members receive the guidance they need while maintaining enough autonomy to bring their expertise and creativity to the table. Faster project completion. With appropriate check-in points rather than constant interruptions or complete disengagement, projects move forward more efficiently. Issues are caught early without creating bottlenecks in the workflow, as well as preventing fires and emergencies in the future. Reduced revision cycles. When expectations are clear from the start and feedback is provided at strategic intervals, the number of major revisions drastically decreases. And this definitely saves time for both you and your team member. And when you're saving time, you're increasing profitability. Better resource allocation. Balanced leaders spend their time where it matters most: higher complex tasks, newer team members, and higher risk deliverables, while stepping back from areas where oversight adds little value. You have a limited resource, and that is time. Knowing exactly where you are most valuable in showing up through the process and leading your team members is essential for maximizing that limited resource. I alluded to this already, but yes, increased profitability. The combination of improved quality, faster completion times, and optimized resource allocation directly impacts your bottom line. Projects stay on budget, and team members use their time more productively. I want to add one more thing here with regards to profitability. When your team members are happier, they stay longer, and you have less turnover. Turnover, meaning gaps in a role being filled, and the process of hiring someone and training somebody and getting them up to speed is actually a profitability drainer. Next, enhanced client satisfaction. Clients receive consistently high-quality work that meets their needs without the delays caused by either excessive revision cycles or lack of oversight. And we know that enhanced client satisfaction definitely helps reduce your stress, but ultimately will help your referrals. When you have happy clients, they're talking great about you, and that will bring in more business. Greater scalability. Unlike businesses where the owner must personally review everything or where quality is inconsistent due to lack of review, balanced leadership creates a sustainable model that can grow beyond the owner's direct involvement. Next, I want to talk about how this benefits your team. It accelerates skill development. Team members learn and grow faster because they receive the right amount of guidance, enough to learn from, but, not so much that they become dependent on your input. Increased confidence. As they succeed and progressively less oversight is needed, team members build confidence in their abilities and judgment. Higher job satisfaction. The combination of clear direction, appropriate autonomy, and recognition creates an environment where team members feel both supported and valued. Reduced frustration. Team members no longer experience the frustration of either constant correction or lack of guidance. They know what's expected and have the support to deliver it. I truly believe that when you have good team members, they just want to do a good job. They want to do a good job. They want to know they're doing a good job, and they want the support so that they can do a good job. And when they can't do a good job, not only does it decrease their confidence, as we talked about, and decrease their job satisfaction, but it definitely creates a lot of frustration and thus really affects the team culture. Clarity around expectations. With clear standards established up front, team members understand what success looks like without having to guess or make endless revisions. I know that if I'm working on something and I don't know what success looks like, because I want to do a good job, I move a lot slower. And I can imagine that that's true for a lot of other team members that don't really know what is expected of them. And so that same team member that just wants to do a good job and they don't know what that looks like creates a lot of frustration. And lastly, stronger sense of ownership. Balanced leadership fosters appropriate ownership of work products, increasing intrinsic motivation and pride in the final deliverable. And I want to wrap this section up on what are the benefits of balanced leadership to you, the leader, the business owner. Balanced leadership will absolutely reduce stress. You'll experience less anxiety about either letting go of control or not being involved enough, because you'll know your level of oversight is appropriate to the situation and team member. You will get more focused time. By calibrating your involvement based on the need rather than applying a uniform oversight, you free up time for your high-value activities, the ones that propel you towards your goals, the ones that move the needle for you to achieve your business goals. You need time to do that. And if you're saying that you need more time, one of the leaks with where you're investing your time might just be your actual leadership style. Stronger team relationships. The balanced approach builds trust and respect with your team as they see you providing both support and autonomy appropriately. Look, as small business owners, our team is an extension of our family. Oftentimes, we're with them more than we're with our own family members hour for hour. And so this really allows for a more joyful work environment when you have these stronger relationships built. You get freedom to focus on strategy. As your team becomes more capable of handling the day-to-day deliverables with the right level of oversight, you'll gain more time to focus on strategic business growth. And this isn't just a time component. To really focus on the strategy and the bigger picture, it takes mental bandwidth. And when you are so hands-off that it's causing stress and problems in the business, or you're so hands-on that it is causing stress and heartache in the business, it really does weigh you down mentally and doesn't allow you to really think big picture. And lastly, personal satisfaction. There's immense satisfaction in watching team members grow in capability and confidence under your balanced leadership. The balanced approach creates a powerful ripple effect throughout your small business. When you consistently practice balanced work review as the business owner, the team members begin to self-review. Yes, I bet you're wishing for that to happen. When they self-review their work using the same balanced criteria before submitting to you, and this improves quality from the start. Peer collaboration improves as team members adopt your balanced feedback style when helping each other informally. You're creating a positive work culture and setting the standard for how you communicate with your team members, and thus they are going to communicate with each other in a very similar way. Client interactions transform as your team applies the same principles of clear expectations and appropriate follow-up. And lastly, team members grow more confident in making decisions within their area of responsibility. This creates a culture of balanced quality and autonomy throughout your business, even without formal management layers. Most of your businesses do not have multiple layers of management. It's you and the team, or you and maybe one other person helping manage, and then the team. The impact of your balanced leadership as the business owner extends far beyond your direct work reviews, ultimately transforming how work is approached across your entire business. I remember working with a client who was completely convinced of these benefits, but still struggled with the practical implementation. Like, I get it, she told me, but how do I actually know when to be hands-on versus hands-off? And that is exactly what we're going to explore next. A practical framework that takes the guesswork out of determining the right level of oversight for any situation. Because understanding how this benefits your business or what you're avoiding in the negative of each extreme of leadership just isn't enough. So we are going to get to the meat of this with a practical framework that you can apply immediately to feel confident that you're showing up in a balanced way. How do you know the right level of oversight for each situation? Great question. Because one of the biggest challenges in work review is determining exactly how involved you should be in each specific situation. Too much oversight wastes time and demotivates your team. Too little oversight risks quality issues and missed expectations. The key is having a practical framework to guide your decisions. So, I've created the Balanced Leadership Work Review Matrix to help you improve your own work review. Let's dive into it. This matrix is a framework that considers two critical factors. Number one, risk level. How significant are the potential consequences if something goes wrong with this project or deliverable? Because not all tasks and activities and projects are created equal. So objectively, what is the risk level? Number two, experience level. How experienced is this team member with this specific type of work? By plotting these two factors on a simple grid, you can identify which of the 4 work review approaches is most appropriate. Let's dive into the 4 work review approaches. Number 1, thorough review. This is going to be for those high risk plus low experience situations. This is the eyes on every detail zone, meant to protect the business and support learning. When to use it? New team members handling high stakes work, first-time tasks with significant consequences, or situation where errors could have serious impact on your business, like when a new hire is preparing a client proposal or launching a public-facing campaign. As the leader, your role will be to coach closely, review line by line, and explain the reasoning. Because remember, this is definitely a teaching moment. And here's what that could look like. Detailed initial briefing with clear expectations and context, frequent check-ins and predetermined milestones, line-by-line review where appropriate, explicit explanations of the why behind decisions and standards. That's truly, really one of my favorites for teaching and supporting a team member. I really believe that people get it more and quicker when they understand the why. During a thorough review, you may say something like, I'll be reviewing this closely since it's your first time creating a client proposal. Let's walk through it together so I can explain our standard terms and why they matter. All right, next. Next is going to be the targeted review. And so that is going to be high risk and high experience. Here, you will trust their skills, but you're not going to disappear. Focus only on critical risk areas. When to use it? Complex, high-stakes projects with experienced team members, like when a seasoned team member is finalizing a client presentation or launching a high-stakes initiative. As the leader, your role will be to confirm key details, ask the right questions, and sign off on final decisions. Here's what that could look like. Focus only on the critical risk areas and key decision points. Trust their process, but verify important elements. Strategic check-ins at crucial junctures or phases. And lastly, targeted questions that zero in on the potential risk areas. During a target review, you may say something like this. I know you've done many projects like this before. Let's just make sure we're aligned on these 3 crucial areas that could impact our compliance requirements. Let's move into number 3, developmental review. Developmental review is low risk and low experience. The stakes are low, so lean into teaching moments. When to use this? Routine tasks for newer team members with lower stake tasks and projects with learning opportunities. Like when a new team member is writing an internal update or drafting a blog post for social media. And as the leader, your role will be to give constructive feedback, build confidence, and explain context. And here's what that might look like. Clear initial directions with defined success criteria. Like examples. Moderate review focused on teaching and building confidence. This is a great opportunity to build up those newer team members. Constructive feedback that emphasizes growth, more attention to the learning process than minor details. And during a developmental review, you may say something like, this blog post draft is a perfect opportunity for growth. I'll review it with specific feedback on structure and messaging so you can develop these skills rather than me just making the edits myself. Because let's be honest, making the edits yourself is so tempting. But this is going to be one of those really missed opportunities to be investing in a team member. And lastly, number 4 is the light touch review. So this is going to be your lower risk and high experience team members. This is the sweet spot of leadership. Trust them and check minimally. When to use it? Routine tasks with experienced team members. Low stakes projects where you're confident in capabilities, like when a senior team member is handling routine tasks or creating repeatable reports. As the leader, your role will be to give autonomy, glance over the final work product if needed. And here's what that could look like. Minimal oversight, possibly just a quick glance over the final product, if at all. Focus on outcomes rather than methods. Full autonomy in how the work gets done. Brief acknowledgement of completion, like, good job, thank you. During a light touch review, you may say something like, you've handled these monthly reports successfully for a while now. Just send me the final version when you're done, so I'm aware it's complete. That's great. In fact, in my own team, what I have them do is just send a quick comment inside ClickUp that says, done. And that is only for certain repeatable tasks. And in fact, we're to the point on the team that if it's a repeatable task, I don't need to be notified at all, because not only do I trust their capability, I trust their follow-through. The beauty of this matrix is that it creates a clear path for team development. And I call this the trust bank model because of this analogy. As a leader, your team members are either filling up your trust bank or withdrawing from it. It's similar to how your significant other fills up your love tank, like making you feel really loved, or they're withdrawing from it. And even though they don't know it, your team members are either making deposits because they're doing the work well, or they're withdrawing because of mistakes made that make you trust them less. You will have ups and downs, just like in any relationship, but the goal is to have many more deposits than withdrawals. Team members must build trust with you and not just have it granted to them. And that's why I really love this matrix, because you can see where you're starting with them at and understand the progression. And there should be progression. You should be getting deposits in your trust tank. As your team members gain more experience and demonstrate greater consistency and capability, your trust bank gets filled up and you can intentionally move them from thorough review towards targeted review for high-risk projects, and from developmental review to light touch review for those low-risk projects. There is a clear progression as your team member gets more and more experience and is making those deposits in your trust bank. This progression accomplishes 2 critical goals. It develops team capabilities by gradually increasing autonomy as skills improve, and it optimizes your time by focusing your detailed attention where it adds the most value. If you're already hearing how powerful this matrix can be, you're going to love seeing what we've put together for you. I've created a downloadable version you can start using right away, complete with printable power sheets and a step-by-step companion guide to help you put into action with your team. I'll tell you exactly where to find it at the end of today's episode. And now that you understand which matrix quadrant is appropriate for different situations, let's explore specific review techniques that will help you implement balanced leadership in practice. I really wanted to be able to give you specific work review techniques. So let's dive in. The first one is the stage review approach. Instead of reviewing completed work all at once, which often leads to extensive revision cycles, implement a staged review process with clear checkpoints. This stage review will depend on the type of project, activity, or task that's being done. But really, it's as simple as looking at the process and determining clear milestones. And for example, this might look like before it gets started, you're checking in and giving concept and planning. You're giving them a clear indication as to what the approach should be or what is the final outcome or what does success look like. And then checking in on early progress, maybe around the 25% mark, just to ensure that they understood what you were requesting and what is being executed on is a result of that. You can also have key milestone reviews. So if there's phases in the process, or if there's a draft and then a revision and then a final draft, those are key milestones to be able to check in with this staged reviewed approach. You can also determine that you're going to do a review at the pre-final review, just to give it a once-over, final edits before the work is considered complete. And maybe even a final approval before, say, it goes out to the world on the internet or to a client, quickly confirming that all the feedback that you've given thus far has been addressed. This approach catches issues early when they're easier to correct and naturally decreases the involvement as the project progresses. What I'd say for this is that it's a part of your process and that you are giving these reviews consistently based on the type of task that's being done or activity that's being done so that it's clear what the back and forth is. Next, the review template method. This one is that you're going to create standardized review templates for different types of projects or deliverables that focus attention on what truly matters. So if you have repeatable activities or repeatable tasks or projects, you could create a template so that it is being reviewed consistently the same way each time. What I love about this is that it actually improves the consistency of output because the consistency of review is there. And so this template may be things like you're just highlighting the top 3 to 5 most crucial success factors for that type of work. You're going to include objective quality criteria whenever possible. You're going to separate must-have elements from nice-to-have preferences. And then provide space for both technical feedback and strategic considerations. Don't overthink this one. It really is just about creating a review template that you don't need to do the heavy lifting as to what needs to be reviewed, but really going down a checklist. And it helps the employee create a better output because they know what they're being reviewed on. Next, my personal favorite. I call this the questioning approach. Rather than directly pointing out issues or deciding solutions, phrase feedback as thoughtful questions. Like, what was your thinking behind this approach? How do you think this aligns with our client's primary concerns? Have you considered how this might affect fill in the blank? I really like asking questions because this method encourages critical thinking and often leads team members to identify improvements themselves. I personally like and use this approach as it comes naturally to me to question everything. And I do want to say that it is true curiosity. And oftentimes I use this with seasoned team members because it's not that I think something's right or wrong. I may just have a different idea of what the output would look like or should have looked like. And when I make questions like this, it invites me to see it from their perspective. And oftentimes, when I see it from their perspective, what they created or what I'm reviewing is 100% right. In fact, they're thinking of things that I'm not even thinking of because this is the work that they do often. They were able to slow it down and think of all of things that were affecting or could affect how this work was done, whereas I'm just popping in to this particular task or activity. So questions is very empowering. And for me as a leader, it feels less judging of them and certainly expands my own thinking on certain activity and tasks because I can see what their perspective was. And who doesn't like a simple framework to use? How about this one? Try this 3-category feedback framework. Structure your feedback into 3 distinct categories. Number 1, critical changes. Must be implemented exactly as described for compliance, accuracy, or strategy reasons. Number 2, directional feedback. Issues that need addressing, but team members can determine the solution approach. 3, consider for future. Making suggestions that aren't necessarily for this deliverable, but would enhance future work. This helps team members understand which feedback requires strict adherence versus where they have some creative latitude. It's really simple, and we all love a simple framework. So 1, critical changes, identifying those, they have to be followed. 2, directional feedback, course correcting on something, but allowing them to come up with the solution. And number 3, considerations for the future, which is your training/coaching opportunity here. What I just did was give you a few practical strategies for reviewing work. And I just want to recap them here because you do not need to use them all. You can use the ones that make sense, you can experiment with them, or you can create your own based on what I shared. So the first one I shared was the staged review approach. Next, the review template method. Then we jumped into the questioning approach, my favorite. And lastly was the 3-category feedback framework. These frameworks and techniques are powerful on their own, but the real magic happens when they become part of your business culture. Let's explore how to embed balanced leadership into the very fabric of your business for long-term, sustainable results. How do you create lasting change in how work is reviewed throughout your business? While the Balanced Leadership Work Review Matrix Framework and the review strategies that we just discussed provide immediate improvements to your work review process, sustainable change requires building a culture where balanced leadership just becomes second nature. Let's explore how to create an environment where quality thrives without micromanagement or neglect. The foundation of a healthy review culture is psychological safety. Team members need to feel secure enough to receive feedback without becoming defensive and to ask questions without fear of judgment. To build this safety, normalize imperfection. Openly discuss your own mistakes and revisions to demonstrate the feedback is about improving work, not criticizing people. Separate identity from output. Help team members understand that feedback of their work is not feedback of their value or capabilities. Praise publicly and correct privately. While some feedback should be delivered one-on-one, be sure to highlight team members' successes in a group setting. Lead with curiosity, not judgment. Frame feedback conversations around understanding, using phrases like, help me understand the approach here, rather than, this doesn't work. And this example here goes back to my questioning strategy, where I definitely have been wrong too many times when I came out and just said, this doesn't work. To which I have refined my own leadership to often say something like, help me understand what you did here or why you did X, Y, and Z. Make yourself approachable. Regular check-ins with simple questions like, what's your biggest challenge right now? Or is there anything you need help thinking through? I end my one-on-one sessions with each of my team members with, is there anything you need from me to do what it is that you need to do? And oftentimes we've already covered it in the session, but for me, it's about this psychological safety of I'm here and maybe I forgot something, but please know that if you need something, I'm here for you. And beyond individual interactions, I want you to create business systems that reinforce balanced work review. The first one is going to be all about documenting your standards, creating clear, accessible guidelines for what constitutes quality work in different areas of your business. And this could be SOPs, but it can also be examples of what the finished work looks like, such as a presentation, a blog article, social media images, you name it. If there is an example, I would definitely have that accessible to the team member that is executing on that task. And having SOPs allows them to follow the standards and quality and the methods that are most efficient for the business. Next, develop shared tools. Implement collaboration platforms that make reviewing work straightforward and transparent. And this is really a big one. And it's big in the fact that it will create so much more efficiency in your business. I want you to think of things like collaborative document platforms like Google Docs, where you can do real-time commenting, suggestions, and you have version and revision history. A project management system that creates dedicated review stages and workflows and tracks the status of items being reviewed. Also, what I love about that is that all the comments are organized into the actual task for easy reference and so that you can see the history of all of the reviewing and back and forth. And an organized shared resource library. This is going to be with your examples of the work that meets the quality standards, but also a resource library could be documentation that is saved on a Google Drive or shared drive or Dropbox. Communication channels, specifically dedicated to review discussions and questions. Now, I integrate this in with my project management system so that the chat is in with the task. But you could have a Slack channel set up specifically for each team member, or maybe it's for a specific project where you're only giving your review and feedback in that channel so that it stays organized and consistent. Next, schedule regular collaboration. Hold periodic team discussions about what's working and what's not in your current work review process. Get feedback. Find out how you can refine your process. Honestly, the people that are getting reviewed might have some really great ideas. Create feedback rituals. Establish consistent routines for giving and receiving feedback, such as weekly review sessions or monthly check-ins. Incorporate self-review. Train your team members to evaluate their own work before submission, gradually building up their quality filter. This is a very high leveraged activity of ensuring that they're not just defaulting to that you're going to check the mistakes, but really incorporating that self-review. And that leads me to developing review independence. Create review systems that don't depend solely on your input. Perhaps you establish peer review processes, or you have a self-assessment checklist for recurring types of projects, gradually shifting more review responsibilities to your team as they demonstrate capabilities. But the self-assessment checklist or the peer review process, or really what we had just talked about, the self-review in general, will ensure that there's less mistakes that you have to catch by the time you're reviewing the work. And then connecting review processes to business outcomes. Help your team understand the quality standards and review processes connect to the broader business goals. Link quality criteria to client satisfaction, retention, or other key metrics. Going back to the why. The why does the quality matter? Well, here's our feedback forms. Here's our Google reviews. Share the business impact of both excellent work and how quality issues have a rippling effect in your business. And then celebrate when quality improvements drive business results. So when you get a happy customer that is referring you to someone else, share that with the team and share it under the umbrella of you are doing such a great job. The work quality is so good that people can't help but to share. Next, as the business owner, I can't say this loudly enough, but without screaming at you, is that your behavior sets the standards. Consistently demonstrate the balanced approach that you want to see. Practice what you preach. Apply the matrix and review strategies to your own leadership consistently. Verbalize your decision making. Explain why you're choosing a particular level of oversight for different situations. Admit when you're off balance. Acknowledge when you catch yourself being either too hands-on or too hands-off. This is not going to be that you listen to this 3-part series and suddenly you got it all figured out and you show up perfectly every day. But there's a lot to be said about building the culture and understanding that this is about progress and not perfection. So when you find yourself off balance, just acknowledge it and course correct. You can invite feedback to your reviewing style. Ask team members how your approach is working for them. And I want to just remind you here, the words you choose, the tone you use when you're giving the feedback may have to change from team member to team member. And so as you are focusing on how you're showing up, be sure to be present in that conversation to see how they're taking that feedback. Because you can refine it. You can adjust it for next time if it's not landing. And you can also just ask them for feedback. Show flexibility. Demonstrate willingness to adjust your approach based on changing circumstances. And really just using this matrix and understanding that you're trying to move everybody in a progression from one side to the next is showing flexibility. Being aware of the risk, being aware of their experience level. If you do just that, you are definitely showing flexibility. Next, even with the best of intentions, certain cultural obstacles can undermine balanced review. I want you to address these proactively. Let's go down the list. First, perfectionism. Counter the belief that anything less than perfect is failure by celebrating progress and improvement, not perfectionism. Urgency addiction. Challenge the notion that speed always trumps quality by highlighting the time saved through getting things right the first time. Next, conflict avoidance. This is a big one. Address the tendency to withhold necessary feedback by emphasizing how constructive criticism serves the team's shared goals. This is for you, the leader, and it's for the person getting reviewed. The idea of conflict or perceived conflict is a huge trigger for a lot of people. And really, this needs to be seen, this feedback needs to be seen as a positive and not conflict at all. And lastly is confirmation bias. Counter the tendency to notice only what confirms existing beliefs by actively seeking different perspectives on work quality. I just had this conversation over coffee with my husband today about our son. Something came up this weekend and I jumped the gun. I made some assumptions based on previous experiences. Now, those previous experiences were from quite some time ago. And he's really maturing and he's really growing and he's made huge strides. And I realized as a mom, as a leader, my own downfall was not giving him the benefit of the doubt and seeing him through the lens of who he's showing up as now, but wanting to default to existing beliefs that I had already had based on previous situations. I guarantee this is no different with your team members. This is a relationship. This is a journey with those people you're having relationships with. And so a great practice here is to catch yourself as the leader and ask yourself, are you confirming your own existing beliefs based on historical information or seeking right now being present in what's happening and recent history and judging the situation on that. I hope that makes sense. I wasn't even expecting to share that in this episode, but it did just happen today. And so much in my experience of parenting really leads over to how we show up as leaders in our businesses. There's a lot of commonality. And I really went to my husband and said, hey, I don't like that I did this. I don't like that that was my default. I didn't express it. I didn't say anything this weekend, but I did catch myself thinking in a certain way that was not helpful to my relationship with my son. And I think that could be true for your team members as well if you're not catching it and you just react to those beliefs or confirmation biases. And then finally, about creating this sustainable culture around balanced leadership, I want you to expand how you measure success to include not just the quality of the final deliverables, but also the health of your review culture. So how healthy is it when you're giving feedback for yourself as the leader and for the team member? I want you to consider your team's confidence and is it growing? I want you to observe if there's more autonomy and growth among your team members. I want you to see if this is having a rippling effect with your clients and the feedback that you're getting with regards to the quality and standards that are being delivered. And then lastly, I want you to check in on your own stress levels. After you have been really standing in this balanced leadership for some time, I want you to check in and ask yourself, do I feel less stressed leading my team? A healthy review culture doesn't happen overnight, but each step you take towards balanced leadership builds momentum. And over time, what begins as a conscious effort becomes ingrained part of how your business operates, creating an environment where both your team and your deliverables can truly excel. Now we've covered a lot of ground in this 3-part series on work review extremes. And we covered a lot of ground because this is so important to you as the leader, to the success of your business. And I want to just take a moment to bring it all together. In our first episode, we explored overbearing leadership and saw how micromanaging your team's work creates bottlenecks, stifles innovation, and wastes valuable resources, both yours and your team's. And in our second episode, we examined the laissez-faire leadership and discovered how a completely hands-off approach leads to inconsistent quality, missed expectations, and team members who feel unsupported and honestly frustrated. Today, we unpacked what balanced leadership truly looks like. That sweet spot in which you provide the right level of guidance and autonomy based on specific situations. We've seen the powerful benefits this approach brings to your business, your team members, and you as a leader. And then most importantly, I've given you some practical tools to implement balanced leadership right away. I've shared with you my balanced leadership work review matrix, which if you have not gotten it, make sure you get it at the end of this episode, to help you determine the appropriate level of oversight for any situation. And then I shared with you specific review techniques like the stage review approach and the questioning method. And lastly, we covered strategies for building a healthy review culture where quality thrives without micromanagement. Remember, finding this sweet spot isn't about being perfect in every interaction. It's about becoming increasingly aware of your natural tendencies, whether towards over-controlling or disengagement, and deliberately choosing a more balanced approach. As we wrap up this series, I want to encourage you with this thought. Your growth as a leader directly impacts your own personal productivity and your team's productivity, thus your business's potential for growth. By mastering balanced work review, you're not just improving individual projects, you're creating a sustainable leadership approach that transforms your team's capabilities, your business's scalability, and ultimately, your quality of life as a business owner. Finding that sweet spot of balanced leadership isn't a destination. It's an ongoing practice. As your business grows, your team evolves, and your own leadership matures, you'll continue refining your approach. Remember that even small adjustments to how you review work can dramatically improve team members' performance, business scalability, and your own satisfaction as a leader. If you've ever wondered how a productivity business coach can help you and your business grow, this is just one example of the type of coaching, teaching, and support I offer my coaching clients. If you are interested in working with me to develop your leadership skills so that you can maximize your productivity and your team's productivity, then we should talk. Head on over to amberdelagarza.com/coaching to learn more about my peak performance business coaching and to schedule a discovery call today. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/coaching. Now, I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast, and I sure hope you found this work review series to be valuable. But I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. This week, I challenge you to apply the Balanced Leadership Work Review Matrix with at least one team member. And here's how. Just start by identifying a project or task they're currently working on. Assess the risk level of that specific work. Consider their experience level with this type of work. Then choose the appropriate level of oversight. Thorough review, targeted review, developmental review, or light touch. And finally, pay attention to how both of you respond to this more intentional approach. To make this process easier, download my free Balanced Leadership Work Review Guide at amberdelagarza.com/work review. It includes printable power sheets, detailed examples, and step-by-step instructions to help you start implementing balanced leadership across your team today. Head on over to amberdelagarza.com/work review. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.